Hello, my dear friends. This Shabbos is known as Shabbos Hagodol. One of the primary explanations why it's the great Shabbos, Shabbos Hagodol, is because in Parshas Bo, Moshe Rabbeinu instructs the Jewish people that on the 10th day of Nisan, they should take the seh, the lamb, in preparation for bringing it as a korban 4 days later. The halacha is that before you bring a sacrifice, it has to be examined for blemishes for 4 days. So the Jewish people took the lamb and they tied it to their bedpost. And this and the year of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the 10th day of Nisan, was Shabbos. And the Egyptians saw the Jewish people tying the lambs to their bedposts and said, "Hey, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing?" And they said that because the Egyptians believed that the lamb, was a god. It was an avodah zarah. And they were infuriated. Why are you taking the lamb? And the Jews said, you know why? Because God told us that we should sacrifice, go out to the desert, and we're going to sacrifice in advance. We're going to sacrifice the lamb and celebrate a holiday. And that was such insolence on the part of the Jewish people. They're going to sacrifice the God of the Egyptians, and it's in their face that they're tying down the lamb. So, but it was a miracle that the Egyptians were unable to intervene, and that's why it's called Shabbos Hagodol, because it was a great nace. I want to suggest a slight variation. Not only was it a nace that the Egyptians didn't intervene, but it was also the nace that the Jewish people had the fortitude to do so. And the reason why it was such a great thing, or so exceptional, is number one, because it was dangerous. They knew that the Egyptians, if they had their way, would slaughter them for tying down their God. But in addition, the Jewish people lived in Mitzrayim, and the culture of any country is enormously powerful. People do the craziest things because of culture. Look at our society. I don't want to enumerate all the things that are just mind-boggling, things that are just crazy that people are doing today, but the culture is so strong that it pulls people along, and things that are completely beyond comprehension, completely ridiculous and idiotic, but everybody else is doing it, so I'm going to do it too, because that's the power of culture to impact on the people who live in that environment. So the Jewish people, they were living in Mitzrayim for hundreds of years, and in Egypt, the belief in idol worship and the belief that the lamb was a god, as ridiculous and foolish as it was, but that was their belief system. And the Jewish people, in order to fulfill the commandment of Moshe, in the name of Hashem, they had to overcome their acceptance of the belief system of the Egyptian people. The difference between a katan and a gadol, a child and an adult, is that a child doesn't think on their own. Child does whatever the parents tell them or whatever their friends say. An adult is capable, doesn't always exercise it, is capable of independent thought. And that is what the Jewish people exercised and demonstrated. When they took the seh, they were bucking the system. They were showing that even though the culture in Mitzrayim was such that the seh was a god, they were saying it's nonsense, it's ridiculous. How in the world could a lamb be a god? It's so absurd. But the Egyptians, the entire Egyptian society believed that was the case. So that required on the part of the Jews enormous fortitude to go against the culture. And that's why it's called Shabbos Hagodol, because they were going against the tide. They were ignoring the belief systems, because they recognized at that moment that, in addition to the fact that God commanded them to bring the seh, but they recognized that this is all stupidity. It's foolishness to believe that a seh is a god. And it's amazing how throughout world history, the societies have believed in crazy things, especially avodah zarah. Even the Greek culture, they believed in mythology, they believed in various gods, and they worshipped statues. These people were supposed to be so smart. It's utter stupidity. We know that Avram Avinu, when he was a young child, the famous Midrashim say that Avraham was an iconoclastic person. He smashed the idols of his father, and that was a great thing. That was his first act of greatness. What was the big deal? So there were a bunch of stone statues, and Avraham took an axe or a hammer, and he chopped them down. Why was that such a great thing? It was so great because the whole world believed that if you fashion a stone you carve out a stone, chisel out a stone into an image, that becomes a god. Is there any way to comprehend it? No, it's total stupidity. But that's what everybody believed, and that was so, to be able to go against the grain of society. That was an enormous act of courage and conviction on the part of Avraham Avinu. So that's why this Shabbos is Shabbos Hagodol. In addition to the fact that there was a great miracle, and in addition to the fact that the Jewish people did a great thing, not being afraid of the consequences of being attacked by the Egyptians, but it was Shabbos Hagodol because the Jews themselves finally became Gedolim. And you know that as slaves, even more than a child, a slave is totally subservient to their master. So they were slaves in Egypt. They had no mind of their own. They had adopted the Egyptian culture. Chazal say that at Kriyas Yamsuf, the Malachim said, "Why are you drowning the Egyptians? Why don't you drown the Jews? The Jews also believe in Avodah Zarah." So here they were living under the influence of the Egyptian culture, and they were slaves, and they had no independence and no mind of their own. And nonetheless, because God told them, take the seh and tie it down and prepare it to be sacrificed, they were willing to do so. That was when they became Gedolim. That was when they became independent people who would do the right thing. And the lesson for us is that so many things that we do is because we're under the influence of society. Societal norms are so powerful, and the values of society become our values by osmosis. And as Jews, we have always gone against the stream. We don't accept things because everybody else is doing them and say, okay, this is what everybody believes in, I'm going to do it too. As the hallmark of the Jewish people, beginning with Avraham Avinu, is they don't accept things that don't make sense, because just because everybody else believes it, that's ridiculous. But it's human nature. But the Jews are able; they're stiff-necked, and they go against the tide and the culture of society, and that's what as we observe Shabbos Hagodol, we have to underscore and emphasize this quality, that even though the society has just gone mad. I don't want to start enumerating all the things that are wrong in the society, but they're just mind-boggling. They don't make they're so absurd. But that's the culture, and the reason why so many people accept this is because that's the culture. Everybody else believes it, so it's like a tidal wave. You can't a tsunami. You can't fight a tsunami, and there's a tsunami of culture that sweeps people away into believing the most. In 100 years, when people look back at history and they say, you know what, they believed in this and they believed in that, they're going to say, what are they, crazy people? They had no intelligence? How could they believe such stupidity? But currently, that's the culture, and it's very, very powerful. And we have to remember, as Jews, we have our own value system, and no matter what the value system of society is, and no matter what society believes in, and no matter what society considers to be important, there's all sorts of things in society. So money is important, there'll be power, beauty. We have our own value system of what's important, and we have our own recognition of what is the real reality. And those are things that we have to remember on Shabbos Hagodol and convey that to our children as well. In the end of the Haftarah, it says that Eliyahu, when he will come, Lifnei Bo Yom Hagodol Hanora, Eliyahu will herald the coming of Mashiach before the great and awesome day. When Mashiach comes, it's referred to as the great and awesome day. That's another reason why it's called Shabbos Hagodol, because the end of the Haftarah ends speaking about the great day. It's a great day because Mashiach coming will be a great day, but I think along the same lines that I just said, it will be great because Eliyahu will dissolve all the falseness in society, all the ridiculous and silly and idiotic beliefs the society has will just fall apart in the presence of Mashiach. And Eliyahu is the harbinger for that. He's going to proclaim in advance that Eliyahu Hanavi is coming, and it will be Yom HaGadol. It will be, again, a day of godless, not only because of the great miracles, but it will be godless. The people will become Gedolim when they recognize that how absurd and how ridiculous are the things that society has deemed as appropriate. And let us hope that experiencing Shabbos HaGadol will instill in us this strength of character, and this leads into the yontif of Pesach, the yontif of freedom. Free people think on their own. Slaves, they don't have an identity. And we need to strengthen our own value system and our own identity. And I hope that in Yitz Hashem, we all will have a Chag Kosher V'Sameach, a wonderful and beautiful yontif.